Sunny Laprade.
We met during freshman orientation. I was a dorky, uncultured straight boy from Nowheresville, Western New York, with a paralytic combination of undiagnosed depression and even more undiagnosed gender dysphoria. And she was this gorgeous New York City straight girl, cool to the point of cruelty. We dated all through college, and during that time, I came out no less than 4 times. First as bisexual, then as non-binary, then as a transgender woman, and finally as a lesbian. By summer 2021, I was well into the process of figuring myself out, but had still yet to find any trans femme friends. I spent my days at a dead-end job surrounded by cis straight people, and my nights at open mics getting harassed by cis straight people, all before coming home, taking a bong rip big enough to wipe the slate clean, and starting anew the next day. But then I picked up a copy of Detransition Baby and kicked off the tightest dysphoria spiral the world has ever seen. I had never read a book by a transgender woman before, and seemingly every page contained one of my deepest, darkest secrets. Those thoughts that I had assumed that I would never be allowed to share publicly, and yet there they were, written down plain as day on the pages of a bestseller. I was devastated, and suddenly it became all but impossible to maintain any of my residual masculine qualities. I had always thought that sex was, overrated. Like, it wasn't necessarily traumatizing. It had kind of the same appeal as porn. Like, I would get kicked so far out of my body that I got to watch 2 people have sex. And for a while, I thought that was fine, but mostly because I thought that there were no other options. But in Detransition Baby, Ames and Reese were crying and being vulnerable and fucking like animals. And suddenly, I could no longer get myself to rise to the occasion, if you know what I mean. And so after about a month of avoiding any kind of physical intimacy, my girlfriend confronts me. I'm in my early 20s. I'm not willing to be in a sexless relationship, she says. So I open up. I tell her that my dysphoria has been crushing me and that sex has been particularly difficult, and I just need a little bit of time to figure it out. And so she gives me time until the end of the month, to be exact. So I now have less than 3 weeks to figure out my relationship with my body. Easy peasy. So I get a new therapist. I get completely sober. I scour dark, crusty corners of the internet to find bad advice written by unbearably sad middle-aged men. And by the end of the month, nothing. Not even al dente. And so she tells me that if we can't find a solution by that night, we would have to break up. And so I beg. I tell her that we can use toys. She literally doesn't even have to touch me, but no dice. So I get a Hims prescription, which is crushingly on the nose. Here I was going by her for the first time, all while getting a little bottle labeled Hims addressed to a name that I no longer went by, delivered to my apartment once a month. I, a woman, got a Viagra prescription before I got estrogen. We continued dating for 1.5 years after that. I spent hundreds of dollars that I did not have on a Viagra prescription that I did not want. During that time, we opened our relationship, which for those of you who don't know, is when one of you wants to move on, but not until they have someone else lined up. She also managed to cheat on me, which is hard to do in an open relationship, but apparently not impossible. And eventually I tell her that I feel like I care for her more than she is even capable of caring for me. And she simply says, yes. And still, in spite of years of cruelty, I stayed. So much in my life had changed over those 4 years. My pronouns and my body were different. I had moved multiple times. I had had a falling out with my family and numerous friends. I was even going by a different name. She was the only constant. And it's hard to let go of the one thing remaining from your old life, your last tie to that cishet world that you'd seen in every TV show and every movie and every relationship on the street for your whole life. Even in Detransition Baby, Reese ends up alone. And who knew if I'd be able to find love again out in the world as a transgender woman? All the transgender love stories I'd seen were always the same dangerous encounter. Some impossibly gorgeous woman face down on a filthy motel mattress with some nameless man who would never introduce her to his friends. Not love. But then I met Violet. She had posted a video on the internet saying that she had recently moved to the city and was struggling to make trans femme friends, and then she put her phone number on the screen. And so I reach out, mostly to tell her that putting your phone number on the internet as a transgender woman is insane, but also to ask her to hang out. And so we meet up at a support group in a church on a street with the same name that I used to go by. And on the way home, we learn that we live close together. And so after that night, we keep hanging out. And eventually I go back to her apartment and I meet her cat and her incredible transgender boyfriend. And I get to see the type of love that I had never even imagined was possible for a girl like me. And that's what finally gave me the strength to flee. Not the countless indignities of my mistreatment, but the unbridled love of my community. Our relationship ended not with a bang or a whimper, not with tears or a final kiss, but with me calmly telling her it was over, to which she responded, "Fuck it, we ball," and then dapped me up. And in the year and a half since, I have never felt happier or more loved. Thank you.
Keep it going for Sunny Laprade. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you.